What is going on, everybody? This is Dave and welcome back again to a video on the channel. Today we've got a slightly different video. It's one I actually did last year as well. It's going to be Steve Bull as Wolves manager. Now Steve Bull, Wolves all-time top goal scorer. Steve Bull is a Wolves legend. As you can see here on the screen, he hasn't done well on stat wise. He's not brilliant at all. His best stat is determination at 13. Other than that, he's got level of discipline and working with youngsters at 10. So really things don't bode well for good old Steve. But 51 years of age, he made 13 caps for England, and we're going to be testing him out at Wolves. He's had one stint at management in real life at Stafford Rangers, and I'm sure that didn't go quite to plan. For some reason, it does say he was manager there for 8 years, but I'm pretty sure that's not true. But we've chucked him in now as Wolves boss, hoping that he can, bring back the glory days to Wolves. He's going to be having an attacking coaching style. A preferred formation is strange one of a 5-3-2 with wing backs. It's going to be interesting to see if he goes with that. And Wolves getting him a contract until 2020 with £9,000 a week. Wolves are predicted to finish 8th in the league, and as you can see, along with Billy Wright, Jack Hayward, Stan Cullis, the 4 stands at Wolves, Steve Bull is at the top of that list just there. I have been doing experiments similar to this over on FM Scout, and we've been doing it with Premier League managers, and I'm going to be doing every Premier League club with one of their legends, and then chucking them in at the deep end all together in the same save and see which legend comes out on top. But it's going to be interesting to see if Steve Bull can get Wolves through to the Premier League. I believe, off the top of my head, last year, I think he got them to the playoff final, and then they lost in the playoff final, and the season after they really struggled. But now with this influx of money from Fosun, it will be definitely interesting to see if Steve Bull can go the extra mile and get Wolves promoted this time. We're literally going to just holiday until he gets sacked, I think. We'll look for, obviously, every season. And at the end of every season, we'll do a little review and have a look how it goes. So let's skip forward to the end of the first season. And if you enjoy what you see today, make sure you smash that like button down below and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. So we skip forward to the end of the first season. We don't see Steve Bull on the available jobs or insecure jobs. So we're going to see if he's brought the passion back to Wolves at all. He's still currently Wolves manager, as we can see there, and he's still content with life at a club he loves. So we're going to have to quick look now to see if he's promoted. His determination is shot up to 14, and some of his stats are rounding up a little bit nicer as well. Still on the same contract till 2020, but Wolves finished in 10th place in the Championship. So if we have a quick look at the competitions, they certainly did. 10th place. How far behind? Not too far behind the playoffs. 6 points behind Cardiff. Finished on a positive goal difference. Knocked out in the FA Cup third round by Reading. That went on to be won by Spurs. And knocked out in the first round of the FL Cup by Wycombe, which Spurs also won. Newcastle, Brighton and Leeds were the 3 teams to go up. Helder Costa looked like he had a good season. Let's see if Wolves brought any players in though. Steve Bull certainly spent 4.1 million. Bringing in 3 million, interestingly. He sold off Jack Price for 1.9, going up towards 2.9 million to Villa, which is quite an interesting one. Played a lot of games for Villa as well. Kind of must have moved it in. No, he did move. He played 41 games for Villa overall, so he's a regular there. Matt Doherty went out on loan, interestingly, to Huddersfield as well. Brighton and Bakari got a loan to Hearts. Connor Ronan as well to Partick Thistle. Morgan Gibbs-White sold as well for 500k, possibly going up to £1.4 million. He played a cup game for Leicester as well. We're looking at the players Wolves brought in. Now, Max Power in on loan from Wigan. He... again, almost ever present for Wolves, which was a bit strange, especially a player in on loan, an attacking midfielder. Matthew Spiranovic from Hangzhou, Argentine, I guess, in a centre-half, which Wolves probably need, to be fair, in from a Chinese side. Never played top-level football, but still, stat-wise, he looks pretty good. Played 10 games for the Wolves. Daniel Johnson, again, another loan deal. Central midfielder in from Preston. Played quite a number of games as well. Frederick Berge from Odd. Another centre-half. Again, looks fairly solid. Played 9 games. I think it was just a backup. None of the average ratings I've seen so far from any of these players have been brilliant, though. Lewis Cook, pretty big signing. Another central midfielder, though, in on loan. 18 appearances, just a 6.8 average rating. And Stephen Taylor, another centre-half from Wolves, which is strange because they never really shipped out any centre-halves. but he had a much better average rating at 7.02. Some odd transfers, some very strange transfers there on Wolves, but nevertheless, a 10th finish, and Steve Bull is still in charge. Tactics-wise, he's definitely playing that formation. Strangely, Romain Saiss playing as a left wing back. I'm not too sure if he's been retrained to play there. Of course, with the three centre halves, I suppose he does need an extra number at centre back. He's played House, Spiranovic, and Iorfa in the last game. Silvio as a right wing back. Not a bad formation idea, but I do believe Wolves, especially as they do in real life, will play a lot better with wingers. Because the way they're playing, I mean, he's retrained Ivan Cavallero to be a striker, which I don't suppose is a bad thing if you're looking at those stats there. He did grab 9 goals in the league. But, we could, especially with Vyman, Costa, it's hard to fit so many decent players such as Graham and so on as well into that one striker position. We'll quickly look at the first season as well before we, waste much more time. It looked fairly solid. They had a horrible run there from the end of November till the new year, really, winning no games. And games really on paper which are probably winnable, such as Bristol City, Cardiff, Forest. And that may well have cost Steve Bull's side playoffs. And especially at this point, no wins out of any of these last 5 games. Wolves could have definitely been in the playoffs. So a bit more consistency and look next season, and they're definitely within a shout. Honestly, they are. Most appearances though this season was Helder Costa. He was also the top goal scorer, along with Ivan Cavallero, closely followed by John Daddy Bodvarsson. Most assists was Lewis Cook. Connor Cody grabbed 9 as well. Best average rating was Courtney Hawes. Stephen Fletcher in just behind. Danny Bart as well, with a fairly solid average rating. So we'll skip forward another year, see if Steve Bull is still in charge, and let's see if he can get promotion for the Wolves. So we're now at the end of the 2018 season, 2017-2018 season. Again, no Steve Bull on the available jobs or insecure jobs. Middlesbrough obviously just won promotion from the Championship. So let's see if Wolves also did the job. So if we go and search for Steve Bull again, he's still definitely the manager of Wolves. Again, delighted now to be in charge. Stats again look fairly similar. Everything looks more or less the same. Still on that same 2020 contract though. And Wolves this time finished top of the Championship, so they won the league. Very interesting indeed. Competition wise, let's have a quick look then. Ivan Cavallero finished your top goal scorer this season, and Wolves absolutely blitzed the league. 11 losses this season, but 28 wins and 91 points. It looked like, in the cups as well, 4th round, knocked out by Arsenal, which United went on to win. United also won the EFL Cup, but Wolves were also knocked out by another London side, Spurs, who couldn't retain the EFL Cup. Very interesting indeed. A great season for Steve Bull and Wolves. This season bringing in just 2.4 million pounds worth of players and selling 1.7 million pounds worth. So he sold Silvio off to Swansea, and Frederick Berge went to Brentford for quite a small fee as well. Ben Marshall and Niall Ennis both went out on loan. Niall Ennis getting quite a high profile loan deal as well, scoring 13 goals in League One, which isn't bad to be fair. James Henry got released. Mike Williamson, George Saville, Lee Evans all couldn't grab a new contract at the club. Duckens, Lazon as well, the Haitian striker, couldn't grab a new contract. A couple of loans, again, Brighton Bakari out on loan to Rotherham this time, had a decent spell in League One. But let's have a quick look at the players he brought in. So, quite a few loan deals. Lise Mousset from Bournemouth, Jay Da Silva from Chelsea, Casey Palmer from Chelsea, Trent Alexander-Arnold from Liverpool, David Myler in from Hull, and Tom Davies from Everton. So, great players in on loan. So, great young English players. Tom Davies looked like he had a fairly solid season for the Wolves. Jay Da Silva didn't play too much, more of a backup option. Casey Palmer had a lot more games, but again, not the best average rating. But Trent Alexander-Arnold looked like he was absolutely superb for Wolves as a wing-back, especially after they sold Silvio. Asani Lukimia, another centre-half. He loves a centre-half, our bully, but this guy looks fairly solid. 16 marking, 16 tackling, 17 strength, but he's not the slowest of guys either. Really decent signing that. 1.5 million as well on Andres Maxo from Nordsjælland. Again, another centre-half, but this guy looks like he had a very decent season for the Wolves. And then they brought in Dan Crowley in on loan, on a free rather, but they did loan him out to Crawley. So it looks like it was a very solid season. He was sticking to that same formation again. Paul Gladden played in the last game. Surely was that the playoff? No, that was the last game of the season. Look, he gave big Paul Gladden a chance up front. His only game of the season, and didn't score. But it looked like he rotated it a little bit for that game Indeed. David Myler came in as well. He had a good amount of appearances on loan from Hull as well. But Wolves had a really, really solid season. So let's have a quick look what happened in the Championship. So going down, they're just never really like a massive run of no games without a loss, but they were just fairly consistent. They weren't losing too many in a row. The most they didn't win in a row was 2, I think, throughout the whole season. There was 4 here, 4 games throughout October without a win. But other than that, they were really, really solid, fairly consistent, grabbing some decent performances as well along the way. In the FA Cup, let's have a quick look. Obviously, well, in the EFL Cup, they lost out to Spurs in the end. Beat Portsmouth 4-0, beat Blackburn, and then lost out in extra time 4-3 to Spurs. Gave Spurs a real scare in the end. The FA Cup, they beat Swansea after a replay and then lost out 2-1 at the Molineux to Arsenal after going 2-0 down. 2 Danny Welbeck goals, Helder Costa scoring another goal. Player-wise, as you can see, the best player this season was Trent Alexander-Arnold. It looked like he had a fantastic season for the Wolves. 11 assists for Tom Davies, 19 goals for Ivan Cavaleiro, Helder Costa as well, banging them in the Portuguese forwards, and Jan Daddy Badvasa scoring as well. Helder Costa now looks like he's been retrained as a striker, and so is Ivan Cavaleiro. It looks like it's working really well for Bully. Trent Alexander-Arnold, 49 appearances, most this season out of any player. Courtney Horse and Danny Bart as well, with a good amount of appearances. So it's really interesting how Wolves, media predicted 7th, went and absolutely blitzed the league with Steve Bull in charge. Very interesting indeed, and it's going to be interesting to see if Bully can keep Wolves up next season and if he will keep his job, especially having only 2 seasons left on his contract. So we're at the end of season 3 now here with Bully in charge of Wolves. Again, no Wolves unavailable jobs or insecure jobs. It's time to see if Steve Bull, he certainly is still in charge of the Wolves, please now still to be in charge. He's still got the same contract, however his wage has gone up slightly, so we just had a bit of a pay rise. He's got just 1 season left on his contract now. Are Wolves going to renew it? That's the question. They stayed up in the Premier League fairly comfortably by the looks of it, 15th in the league. Finishing quite well, 4 points off the relegation zone where Bournemouth, Norwich and Newcastle went down. Knocked out in the 4th round of the FA Cup by Swansea, in the 2nd round of the EFL Cup by Port Vale. Arsenal absolutely smashed the league this season with Man City, Man U and Liverpool all finishing in the top 6. Transfer-wise, spent a total of 17 million, but bringing in 15 million. Sold Ivan Cavaleiro. What a mistake that must have been to Norwich. Obviously, they went down in the end, but could have got more, I feel, especially after his decent performances in the Championship. Ben Martian also left. He wasn't getting enough football, but still got a decent amount for him. Ethan Ebanks, Landell, Joe Mason and Mikel Zyro all left the club. Dave Edwards went out on a free, along with Matt Doherty. He left on a free as well. Jack Ruddy, Donovan Wilson now is not even in the game. Jordan Graham left on a free, which is very interesting now at Swindon in League One. And Andy Lonergan as well, despite having quite a few games. Quite a few players there, big players as well. Niall Ennis to Blackburn, scoring goals in the Championship for fun, almost 16 from the youngster there. But Wolves bringing in some big players. Villan Cyprien from Nice, a central midfielder for quite a big fee, but now valued at £17.5 million. Jesse as well from PSG, great signing for Wolves, but only scored 4 goals this season. Kemar Roof from Leeds, Kyle Bartley from Leeds, and Bailey Peacock Farrell from Leeds as well. They didn't get any signings. Ruben Pinto from Belenenses, a central midfielder. Sirigu as well. Was he the first team goalkeeper this season for the Wolves? It looks like he was. Salvatore Sirigu, the ex-PSG goalkeeper. I brought in Reece Oxford as well in on loan, along with Diego Batista from Benfica, Hal Felix and Pedro Alvaro also from Benfica rather, and Ryan Gould coming in from Sporting as well, playing 13 games for Wolves. Interesting signings, definitely. Tactics-wise, Bully's still sticking with that 5-3-2 formation. Last game of the season, they won 3-1, I believe it was against Hull, and that's the team he played. We'll look at the schedule though quickly before we move on to the next season. Sky Bet Championship, they weren't in obviously. Premier League though. Just did enough. It seems like they were grinding out results in the end. Didn't get a victory against West Brom at the Hawthorns, and didn't get it at the Molineux either. So the Baggies got the double over Wolves this season. Any big wins that we could see? I mean, those two big wins could have may well kept them up at the end of the season. They scraped, 4 wins in the last 6. We probably did keep Wolves up, so Bully's determination there just about kept the Wolves up, but no other massive victories. They started off the season well with a 2-0 win at the Molineux, though. 2 Helder Costa goals. EFL Cup, where they were knocked out against Port Vale, it looks like they didn't have a good time, despite them playing a fairly strong side. Nuadika, what's been happening with him? Not heard much about him. Played just 2 games in the league this season. He was rubbish, even in the EFL Cup as well, so I'm surprised he's still here. He's got 1 year left on his contract. Didn't even play in any of the games since Bully has taken charge, which is fairly surprising, to be fair. And then in the FA Cup, they beat Middlesbrough 2-1, drew to Swansea, and then in the replay they lost out this time around. Player-wise this season, the best average rating was Prince Onyange, who played 17 games for the club in the Premier League, very interestingly. Asani Lukimya as well, playing just 7 games, but probably the biggest regular was Danny Bart. He grabbed a 7.09 average rating. Courtney Hawes grabbed the most appearances this season. Top goal scorer is Helder Costa again. How much is he valued at now? £21 million for the Portuguese winger and striker. And then Willian Cyprien with the most assists as well. We're going to skip forward another year though. The video's getting on a little bit now, and it's time to see if Bully has stayed in charge of the Wolves. So here we are then at the end of the 2020 season, where Steve Bull's contract was supposedly meant to be up. Let's have a quick look at Bully now. He's still manager of Wolves. He is, and he has got a contract extension till 2023. Very interesting indeed. So he must have done fairly well again this season, I suppose. They've finished 16th in the Premier League this season, staying up just about. Again, I suppose, by 6 points this time, a little bit more comfortable, finishing just above West Brom, who finished with 36 points. Arsenal winning the league again. Hull, Palace and Brighton were the sides to go down. No luck in the Cup, so 4th round of the FA Cup, knocked out by Everton. City went on to win that, and the 4th round of the EFL Cup by Arsenal, which was won by Liverpool. £37 million spent this season though. Fosun really injected some money into the Wolves. No real massive big money signings, and no real names that I'm too aware of there, but a few players that left: Connor Cody, Dan Crowley, John Flatt. No real first teamers there. Lukimya left, his contract expired in the end, the centre half. Paul Gladden as well. Prince Onyange left the club despite having quite a regular last season, to be fair. But a few loans as well. So this season the biggest transfer was Florent Hader-Jonaj from Ingolstadt, a right back. I'm guessing he played wing back as well. Played more or less ever present for Wolves. He had a half decent average rating as well. Rafael Toloi, who is a centre half from Atalanta, the Brazilian. Alexander Golovin, a central midfielder in from CSKA Moscow. Arlind Ayeti from Levante, who's another centre half. Mauricio Pereira, who's a central midfielder from Krasnodar. Angus Gunn from Bradford City, who's a goalkeeper. Nicolas Figal from Al Hilal, he's a centre half from Argentina. Brought in Alan Tosca, a defender left or centre half from Romania. He plays for Real Betis. Brad Smith came in as well, left back, and Gareth Rose, who is a regen. They brought him in on loan from West Ham in the end. So a couple of big signings there, but obviously not quite what we were expecting, especially with the amount of money spent. Niall Ennis has finally made his breakthrough to the first team, it seems. He scored 2 goals in the Premier League this season for Wolves. Still, his stats are looking really good. He's a very, very quick young striker. Could do the business for Wolves, if I'm honest. He went up front with Costa for the last game of the season, which they lost. Still playing with this formation though, still sticking with it in the end. In the schedule though this season, we'll have a quick look again at the Premier League. Some bad runs for Wolves. Just did enough again to stay up, but you know, this bad run probably from here to here more or less, only picking up 2 wins for the whole of that period, really, from the start of November to the end of towards the start of March. Wasn't brilliant. It was West Ham and Watford as well. Albeit he had some tough games in there, but probably shouldn't have done it. But just about stayed up, I suppose. That good start probably really helped them. Beat Man U at Old Trafford, Palace, they drew to Chelsea at the Molineux as well. Without that good start, Wolves may not be in the Premier League. So Steve Bull just about keeping his job and grabbing a new contract though as well, to be fair to him. Angus Gunn got the best average rating, albeit with just 4 games. Probably the best average rating again for a regular player was Arlind Ayeti. Most assists, 8 assists for Mihailo Ristic. Most goals was Helder Costa again, closely followed by Niall Ennis. And the most appearances this season was Florent Hada-Guionyaj, the right back. So, we're going to skip forward again one more year, see if Steve Bull stays in charge at Wolves. He's kept them up just about. Now he needs to start pressing on, especially with the amount of money that he's been spending. A lot of money on centre-halves, interestingly, despite Courtney Hawes and Danny Bart still seeming to be regulars at the club, which is a bit strange. But yeah, let's carry on one more year. So here we are now at the end of the 2020-2021 season. We're trying to see if Steve Bull is still around at Wolves. No, he's not. He's now manager of Watford. Very interesting indeed. Manager of Watford over in the Premier League. I'm guessing he's just been relegated with them. Yeah, and so have Wolves. Wolves have gone down. Both level on points with Watford. Now, has Steve Bull just been appointed? Or how long has he been there? Steve Bull's been there for 83 days. He lost 7 of his 10 games in charge. He's obviously not done the best of jobs. He was brought in to try and keep them up, and it's not quite worked out for them. But what happened with him at Wolves? Did he get relegated or sacked rather? So he was sacked in 2021, which was obviously now. Wolves, by the way, have got Gary Monk in charge. Had Gary Neville in as a caretaker manager. He just had 1 game as boss and lost. He's now the assistant manager at Wolves. Very interestingly indeed. He must have been assistant at Wolves, or Bully was still there, which is quite an interesting one indeed. I never checked that, to be fair. He had a 35% win percentage at Wolves. When was he sacked? 13th of Feb 2021. So he still had the majority of the season here. So he brought in 3 players, just £8.75 million worth this season. Shane Duffy was another centre-half. He loves those. Matthew Knox was a striker who absolutely banged them in on loan back at Brighton, which was a bit of a strange decision to loan him back. John McIntyre came in from Spurs, who's a regen. He played quite a number of games. Brought in £2.5 million worth of players, sold Conor Ronan and Alan Tosca, as well as Brandon Ball. But Wolves obviously gone down. Not fully Steve Bull's fault, I suppose, but we'll have a look at why shortly. But 3rd round of the FA Cup, they were knocked out by Everton, won by Man United. Man United also won the EFL Cup. Another loss against Spurs. But Wolves were 5 points away from staying up in the Premier League. Niall Lennis looks like he had a good season though, finishing top goal scorer in the league. He certainly was. Helder Costa didn't have the best of seasons. No one really had a good season. Shane Duffy, obviously, he only played 4 games, so I'm guessing he must have been injured for the majority of the season. He did his cruciate in October, which wasn't good for Wolves, especially after having spent quite a bit of money on him, to be honest. So they won't be too happy with that. So let's have a quick look what happened around February when Bully got sacked. So in the Premier League, we'll have a look. I mean, it was just absolutely atrocious, wasn't it? 3 wins up until there, but it looks like, you know, they beat Watford, and that loss against United obviously wasn't good enough for Wolves. So let's have a quick look at where they were in the league. We can have a look at that on past positions. So Wolves, the 13th of February, they were rock bottom. So they've done quite well to raise a couple of positions, to be fair, but they weren't going anywhere in a hurry. They've been rock bottom for a number of weeks, to be honest. So that's why Steve Bull in the end was sacked, and Watford brought him in. Interestingly, if we have a quick look at their past positions as well, just to see when he was brought in, I'm guessing it was around here. Bully could have maybe kept them up, but you know, he struggled, and in the end they did go down as well. So Steve Bull overall had a very decent career as Wolves manager, getting them back into the big time. But Wolves now back down into the Championship, along with Steve Bull's Watford. I'm guessing he's still going to be in charge of them. He's got 2 years left on that contract of his. But staying at Wolves overall, the most he spent on a player was Wieland Cyprian back in 2018. But a very up and down, won manager of the year in the Championship, quite a few manager of the months as well there, and Interesting, very interesting indeed. The passion obviously kept Wolves in the Premier League for a couple of years, but there is the end of that experiment. If you enjoyed it, make sure you smash that like button down below. If you want anything else similar to this, make sure you subscribe and let me know in the comment section down below what you're after. But enjoy your Easter, and I'll see you all very soon.